making this video to sort through my anxiety a bit. Yeah, Micah. So, one thing I'm realizing is how absolutely invasive the hatred towards Indigenous people is. And what I didn't realize is it has been affecting me my whole life, and I just didn't know what it was. Because one thing about being autistic, or pretty much any kind of neurodivergent, is we can observe things happening. Micah, down. We can observe things happening around us, like, yeah, my cat. But we don't know what it is when it's happening. Like, we're like, oh wow, they're treating me a certain way, but I didn't do anything. Why are they treating me that way? And you notice these patterns. And growing up, I always noticed these patterns of me just going about my business and then encountering these people, let's put this on, that would look at me a certain way, and this hate, this pure hate would flow out of them. And this is from when I was a toddler on up. Like, literally, there's nothing I did wrong. But it was just this hate that just was so much bigger than anybody. Like, it... And I didn't know what it was. And I remember going to my mother, who was the only caregiver I had until I was a little bit older, and going, what is this? Why am I being treated like this? Why did I do something wrong? Does this person just hate kids? Am I really wicked? What did I do? Am I difficult? What? And a part of me knew I didn't do anything wrong. I just always knew who I was. Since I was born, I always knew there was something powerful within me that would always be there, that nobody could take away from me. But I didn't even know what that was. And when religion hit my family, the answer was, oh, it's because there's this light of God in you that these people can see and they don't like. Hey, Micah. Which is kind of true. I mean, there is something within me that people can see that they don't like. But most of the biggest abusers were religious people. No, Micah, you can't go up there. I know, you really want to go up there. And so that didn't click with me. But, I tried to take her at her word. Hey, Micah. And go, okay, that's the best answer I got, And it just continued. It continued well on. Now it's still happening now to me, and I'm 35. And it finally hit me. Hi. It's okay. He loves being held. He's so happy. Yeah. You're all comfy. It hit me that when I went to one of the local casinos run by Indigenous people, it's up north of me a little ways, and I went in there and I got hit with this incredible feeling of love. Yeah. It was this powerful feeling of, you're welcome here. And tribal members would look me in the eye and give me this warm smile like that, and they would nod. And I know what that is. That is the nod of welcome back. You belong here. And it hit me so hard. Okay, wanna go down it? It hit me so hard, like a freight train, because when I lived in Alaska, the only people that gave me that love were other Indigenous people. All the white people were assholes to me. I didn't get along with any of them, except for some of the teachers, who I later learned themselves were Indigenous. My favorite teacher actually was from Bermuda and had some Polynesian ancestry in there. Because I've also learned it's also autism. A lot of us autistic people find one another too. So it was other neurodivergent people, but also other Indigenous people. And there's just that bond with other people that are Indigenous that is just this overwhelming, powerful love that I've had within me and I notice in other people. But I thought to myself, I didn't grow up on a reservation. I grew up homeless. My mother and grandmother stole my inheritance. Every time I would get connected with my culture that was in here, they would move me to another area. Every time I would start bonding with a local tribe and go to powwows and hang out and eat the fry bread and the herring and the salmon and the dried seaweed and all that delicious Indigenous food, and they would be like, oh my God, you're Indian. You are so Indian because you are chowing down on this shit like it is your soul food, right? And I knew it. And I told them, I'm like, you're right. My mother has told me that I'm Indian, but hasn't told me what tribe. And she didn't put my father's name on my birth certificate. So I lost a lot of that. But it's always in here. And every time I would talk to other Indigenous people, I would tell them, I'm like, I feel it. I feel it, but I can't put my finger on it. And they would say, Indian is in here. And I recognize that in you. It's in here. It's the white people that try to put a blood quantum on it. It's the white people that say, oh, you got to have this paperwork. You got to have this card to prove your Indigenous heritage. No, it's in here. But, that's kind of up in the air, right? That just felt like a fairy tale to me. I want solid proof. And then my father got in touch with me, and he told me what tribe I am. I'm Choctaw. And not only that, but he showed me some of his Choctaw artwork. And my whole life I have been making this art and not knowing where it came from. I would be sitting in art class and going on a potter's wheel. And I would just be making these pots. And all the other kids were struggling on the potter's wheel. They couldn't line up the clay right, and I just slapped it down and lined it right up and dropped the hole and formed up the sides, and I made a perfect little pot. And then I glazed it with sky blue glaze. But one incredible thing happened. When it fired, it turned into this wonderful mixture of brown and turquoise. It was beautiful. And it touched my soul when I looked at that and brought it out of the kiln after it had cooled. And I was like, look at this beautiful thing. And all the other white kids, they were like, ew, what did you make? That's so ugly. And I'm like, are you kidding? Look at this. Look how beautiful. It looks like a bunch of clouds. Like, I was so happy I started crying because it was the first thing I made. And it turned out perfect. And it turns out that my people, the Choctaw tribe, makes pots just like that. Yeah. So I made it, and something was guiding me. And I've been explaining this to my therapists and caregivers my whole life. I'm like, there's something guiding me. I've never had money of my own. I've never had land of my own. I've never had an inheritance. Everything that a person needs has been stolen from me. But there's always been something in the core of me that is held true. To the point where often my doctors and therapists would kind of write me off as not really in any trouble because I always had that inner core. Even in my deepest, darkest depression, even in my worst panic attacks, I would have the animals come and help me. Animals always show up when I'm having anxiety, always. Wild animals, domesticated animals, all the animals. They've always been there for me. And on top of that, my art has always been there for me. I'm really good at beadwork. And I'm really good at pottery. I'm really good at basket weaving. I'm good at all the indigenous art. Whenever anybody from the Tsimshian tribe would show me beadwork, how to make beaded barrettes, I took to it like nothing. And they would be like, "You're Indian, Crystal." And I'm like, and I would be like, I know. How do I connect with my tribe? How do I do this? I want to do this as my life's work. I want to pass on these traditions. Teach me your ways because this is what's in the core of me. I know it. I know it. But it's always been taken from me. So that's why I have been coming out and embracing that part of me. And wearing indigenous clothing and getting my tribal piercings. I've never felt more safe than when I embrace my indigenous side. But people in my life, white people, my mother, my grandmother, she grew up with indigenous people and she embraced it. She let me be indigenous. My mother didn't. She said it was antichrist, pagan, evil, wicked. And didn't let me have contact with my father. So I never got in contact with my heritage until I was 29 years old. I finally learned the truth. And this year I'm going to go do a bunch of research. Leon's going to help me do the ancestry research so that I could try to find the Dawes Act documents from my great-grandmother on my father's side. I'm sure it's there. And I'm going to do that around Christmas time. Or maybe when I get the Social Security increase in January, I'll have a little bit more money to be able to set up an ancestry account. But yeah, I'm learning that indigenous people don't have to live on a reservation to be abused by society. I have been beaten by teachers. I have been told I can't practice my culture. I have been told that I should just conform to society. I have been told all the same shit that my ancestors were told in the 1890s. It's still happening today, people. And yes, I don't live on a res. But I have been homeless and a vagabond on the earth for most of my life. Haven't really owned anything except what you see, the body in front of you. And that is true to my people. We have owned, the only thing that we have kept is our love for each other and the knowledge that we are meant to be here, and white corporate capitalism can't take that away from us. And the thing is, the same shit that's being done to me is being done to everybody now. More and more people of every culture now is being treated like the Indian. And Russell Means used to say that too. He said that you're the new Indian. They put my tribes on food stamps long before they put white people on food stamps, and black people, and Hispanic people, and Asian people, and East Indian people, all of that. They did it to us first. They put us on rations. They forced us into public housing. In fact, the Public Housing Acts, they were first set up for Indigenous people to assimilate us so they could grab our land and distribute everything amongst everybody. It's still going on today. But now they're doing it to disabled people too. They're doing it to pretty much everybody that isn't in the corporate club. And the only way I am sitting here right now with the fireplace over there and not homeless is because I married somebody with rich white heritage that was able to see it for what it was, and he embraced me and is sponsoring me as best he can. But it's not easy for him either. Because by loving me, his family is rejecting him. And by me being Indigenous, and me being proud, and me being myself, my family rejected me. Because I'm showing them what they should be. What they could have been if drugs didn't get them. What they could have been if they had did a middle finger to all those white motherfuckers that told us that we couldn't be ourselves. And I am done. If I cannot live and be myself, that's not freedom. If you cannot go to work with tattoos, that's not freedom. If you cannot go to work and outside of a basic uniform, if you can't have your tribal self on display, that's not freedom. That's erasure. If you cannot be disabled at work, if you cannot be gay at work, see what I mean? It was first done to my people. It's being done to more and more people now. And that's what I'm angry about. That it's still happening. And it's being done to my husband now. Because he took a stand and said, I love Crystal. I am going to help Crystal. His family went, why would you help them? Meaning, I don't have that white privilege. I don't have old money. It's being done today. And to some extent, I wish I was on a reservation. Because I'm kind of tossed out in the wind in white society, observing it from afar, feeling the pain and bearing the pain of the crimes against my ancestors. And it's a lot to bear. The only thing I know to do is keep doing it. That's the only thing I know how to do. Keep doing it. Keep trying. Keep being myself. Put it on display. That's the only thing I know how to do. And it seems to be making people happy. And the people that don't like it are people I don't want in my life anyway. Anyway, that's all I have to say.